everyone, and welcome to Talking Points with KPI, episode number 72. Today, we're kind of running it back. We haven't done one of these in a while. We're doing a blog-style podcast, so if you want more information on what we are going to be discussing today, please go to kpimh.com, click the blog tab, and then you will see all of the wonderful blogs that Eric has written and KPI crew and what they are about. But today, we are going over combating the team hopper mentality. So just to hop right in, it's kind of a mentality that we see in a new age of tournament baseball. Just kind of kids hopping over and over to different teams, trying to find that right feel, I guess some kids can say. But just kind of open discussion, how do we feel that this is it's not either going to do anything, but it's going to ruin baseball most likely.
I think it's the mentality I think that we're going to kind of dig into a little bit. It's just, I think the travel ball era, which is not going away and is here, and there are a lot of benefits to travel ball, produces a very short-term outlook on things. Like, I enter the tournament Saturday morning and there's a winner and loser by Sunday night. And then that mindset of, like, I didn't win this tournament, this is a failure. Okay, and then what happens is parents are just moving from team to team, looking for the team that wins all the tournaments, or the team that has the flashy uniforms, or this coach wasn't perfect and this and that, and then it's just this constant carousel. And we've been doing this for long enough now to where we see that mentality ruin many athletes, where parents don't want to lay seed somewhere. They think the grass is always greener on the other side, and they end up killing their kids' dreams because they're just moving them from team to team to team, looking for the perfect fit rather than trying to invest in a good fit.
Yeah. And just to kind of add a further question to that, do you think it's because of the knowledge that these kids aren't getting and the parents aren't getting, or do you think they're just not looking for it?
It's a little bit of both. It's education, obviously, right? It just comes down to the individual and the family and the parents, right? It's if you're a family that's just looking, to just win at a 8U tournament, they are going to continue to team hop, and if that's what you want, so be it. In the long run of it, you are definitely going to hurt your child. If you are a family that is obviously devoted to the long game of this, which baseball is the long play, then you have to find the right fit. You have to find the right team. If that happens to be 2 or 3 teams where you have to test it out, and go different places. It all depends on what those specific needs are for that family, for that kid, and ultimately, the organizations that keep kids are the ones that just show empathy and care for the child. Winning isn't at the realm of it. Yes, winning is nice. Winning's a bonus. Obviously we play the game to win, but it's more they care about the culture of these kids and building them, from the bottom up. That's the teams and organizations that keep having successes.
Yeah, is some of the common ones I think of like the why kids hop from team to team. And to correct you if I'm wrong, you guys all, this is more of your expertise than mine. But playing time, I'm not getting enough playing time. Not winning, right? The team sucks, so I'm going to a better team. Not playing the position that I want to play. I think I should be a starting pitcher or a shortstop, and I'm being put in right field. Is there any other ones? Like what other ones?
You basically covered all of them.
Is that most of the common ones that you hear?
For sure.
So I feel like it's if you're.
Well, I guess there's the different one which will lead us into a different topic that we can talk about. It's like, I've seen it a lot when I grew up. It was like, if a kid fails on a certain team, it's not the kid's fault. It's the environment that he's in. So now we have to move teams so that kid can succeed in a different place.
I think that's the root of the problem of this. It's like parents trying to protect their kids from failure. Yeah. So they're constantly moving around trying to find non-failure instead of teaching the kid how to deal with failure and make things better on their own. Like parents shield their kids from that, and it's actually the worst possible thing you can do for a kid.
Like, I don't know what game you're playing.
Well, there's that too. Right? You're always like, no matter what. I feel like, this plays out in a lot of other areas. I think one I was thinking was like school. This plays out in school too, right? Like my kid doesn't get a good grade, and then all of a sudden, or my kid say like, it's not travel ball, but high school sports team doesn't win. A bunch of disgruntled players get together, and then they start saying, "Oh, we want to get this coach fired." We've seen a multitude of coaches getting fired because players just band together and say, "Oh, we want to get rid of this guy." So I think the part I always think of is like, there's only so much time, energy, and money. And so you start there. Okay, these are my resources. And second to that, okay, what is my ultimate goal? Okay, so how am I going to use my resources efficiently to then help me achieve my goal? I think there are some people. It's like, hey, my kid's probably only going to just play, rec to little league, and then going to play a little travel ball, and they're going to get to high school, and then be done with sports. Go for it. Like that's not really the athlete we're talking about. We're talking about probably the athlete who is pretty talented, who has a shot at playing at the next level, and gets pulled from team to team for any of those varied reasons. And I think that I think the core of it is parents trying to shield their kids from creating this false persona, this false environment, so that I can keep going to the greener grass, and then my kid thinks that they're the greatest baseball player or softball player in the world, and ultimately they are being failed in the long run.
Yeah. And we see that on social media a lot. We see that exact same mindset on social media where parents are pumping their kids up at 10 years old on social media with background music and showing when they hit a home run. They didn't show them when they went 0-for-3 with 3 strikeouts. And they're trying to create this persona and it's not really reality. And what happens in this game is you skirt reality by moving around teams and trying to find the perfect fit and doing all that stuff on social media, and then the game hits you in the face eventually, and you can't do that anymore, and you can't fake it anymore. And that's really what we're trying to combat here, is like provide a lot of consistency, a lot of structure, and real valuable guidance to these families. So when this does get hard, and this will get hard eventually for every athlete, they have the tool set available to them to kind of combat that difficulty.
I think the other villain that's in this equation is the bar for starting a travel ball team is extremely low.
Very low.
Anybody can do it. So there will always be other yards to go and play in.
Yeah.
And the reality of the situation is you're entrusting, like, sports are so important and impactful. They shape our lives, and they shape athletes to handle real life issues in the future, right? Sports will end for everybody at some point. And so if you're just hopping from team to team, you're getting this inconsistent voice, or you're just trying to find the voice that's saying things that you want to say, which then ultimately those people end up starting the teams themselves. Yeah. Like you're creating this false environment for your kid. And I think the way we see this play out is that once they get to high school ball, there's no, and that's why we like high school ball so much, is like there's no hiding. There's no, the coach hates me, this and that.
There's no politics.
Oh yeah, the best players play, and there is politics at play. Don't get me wrong, but that's when the travel coach is also the high school coach. Wow, that's true. So I think that's why we appreciate the high school ball in that portion of the season, because it gives us a better barometer for where that player is at, and then it's also why we rely on our systems. I think using winning and losing and winning travel ball games and all that tell you how good your kid is, or the opinion of one coach that tells you, your kid could be so good. And we hear that from parents all the time. So he could be a D1 player and come play for my team. Like, I think that's why we like our systems. Like, no, we have an entire database. You have thousands and thousands of data points to tell you, here's exactly where you're at. Here's your strengths. Here are your weaknesses. Here are your tools. Here's how you sharpen them, and then you go use them and go out and compete and play and see how you do.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, but one thing I was thinking about just now is, like, even outside of the data, like, there's that personal aspect of, and I've had minimal experience with this, but you guys probably have, of like burning that bridge over and over again. Like, we're just going to go to this team because that coach doesn't feel good when you leave for a reason that is just because the kid's not playing well. I feel like that would be a bridge that is burned that you are doing to yourself that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And there's the reverse of it. This is more on the softball side. You stay with the team because you like the coach, because they're a nice person, and that's also can hinder your development. It's a spectrum, right? You have I switch from team to team every single season, and then I stick with a team so long, and if I'm not progressing, if I'm not getting better, if I'm not developing, then it is time to find a new team. Yeah. And I think that's why we've transitioned to being KPI, where, hey, I say this to kids all the time, I don't care how your team does, I don't care about wins and losses, I care about how you did and if you're getting better. And wherever that is, wherever program or school or coach, wherever that is, more power to you. And then we've had athletes who go and train elsewhere and they continue to get better, and I'm still cheering them on. Yeah. I don't care, as long as you get better. I think that's the part. I really stand by that, because there are kids who have trained with us, baseball and softball, and they go to other facilities, they go to other teams, they go to other programs, and they're still having success. I'm still cheering you on. I'm still on your side. I want you to be successful. So.
Yeah, and just to, not only are you going to burn bridges, but you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to burn your child out. And just to validate, Eric's point, we're going to talk about it with, the learning from failure, right? The parents want to protect them from, their kid failing or, going through struggle, where we should allow them to go through it, and as parents and as coaches who actually care, that's why you're there. You're a mentor, you're a support. You help them go through these tough times where, kindergarten, your son or daughter starts at 5 years old to 8th grade, right? 5 to 14. That's a almost solid 10 years of development with knowing how to handle adversity. We would, in my personal view of it is I'd rather have my son or daughter go through, whether it be school, education, or sports, go through failure in those 10 years, knowing that, there's not going to be as much repercussion, but where it matters 15 to 20 when, your grades do really matter, your performance really matters, they're going to already be prepared for that, so.
That's literally what sports is about is like you need to learn to win and lose.
Yeah.
And you need, that's the time that what you're saying is there's not very much on the line, and you have the other 90% of your life.
This is the time to
lose. If you fail in the first 10% of your life, that's great.
Yeah.
You can learn the hardest lesson at the youngest age, so that you can then handle the real stuff when it starts really happening.
For sure. Yeah. And so I want to kind of move on, but to KPI part of this, right? KPI, we have a lot of high level talent that does get a lot of attention from a lot of teams. But we here, and Eric and Dan and you guys guide these kids to make the right choices, and just kind of talk about how you don't really necessarily, and I think that's kind of a misconception, and we've been I like this part of the conversation we've been going to. We've been getting a lot of credit to other people. We usually don't do that here, but it's kind of cool to see how we've kind of formed that. So how are you giving these kids the knowledge of a outside source where, like we've said, we don't really care about anything outside. We just want the best for the athlete. So how have you guys kind of came around that notion to give them the best knowledge about where to go?
I think it's being unbiased, and like Dan said, we want them to do great, and there's times where training here isn't the best fit for a kid or a family, and we tell them that. And there's times where they're on a team that's detrimental to what they're doing, and we'll tell them that. And then there's times where we'll advise to put on a team that's a partner here because we feel that's the best fit for them. So it's really boils down to the trust families have in us, and they understand that we aren't biased, and we are going to give them some really solid information to kind of to use in this process, because this process is, especially once they get to high school, and I talk to families all the time, the showcases and the scouting services and all the dirt that's in the industry, that's really tough to navigate for families that even when they're educated, it's tough to navigate because it really feasts on their emotions and their anxiety. For sure. And we've talked about that before on this podcast. But I think with this team's issue, it's really about being around good people and good structure with good development. That's it. If you're in that, you're fine.
Yeah, and that's I don't mean to cut you off, but that's to your point. That's subjective to them. Yep. That's exactly. If you feel like you're in a comfortable spot, well, more power to you. For sure.
I think the quick story. One of the first times I dealt with this really, really tangibly, got a call from a kid. He was in high school. It's 10:30 at night, freaking out. He's like, Dan, I need to make a decision if I'm going to play football this fall. And I'll get this back to the point in a second. I go, dude, this is, here are all pros and cons, make the decision. It's ultimately up to you. In 20 years, I'm not going to remember you making that decision to play football or not. But you are. Yeah. In 20 years, your parents aren't going to remember that. Nobody's going to remember these decisions, but you will, because it's your life. And so with any of these types of situations, whether it's choosing the travel ball team or to play a sport or not play a sport, whatever it may be, we give them the education, we give them the information, we give them our advice, and then it's ultimately their decision. And then once they make that decision, we continue to support them and say, okay, hey, this is how we're going to work around this. I think the only time that we aren't as nice as that is if a risk of injury is there, then we're very straightforward. That's a really dumb decision. Yeah. That's not you go play for that travel ball team, and they have guys that are pitching on back-to-back days, and they're throwing 100+ pitches, and you're 9 years old. Or that's just might not be the best fit for you. Or I think on the softball side, there's coaches who mentally abuse their players, demeaning, make them feel less than human. Yeah. And I will not advise players to go to those teams. And then I think the last is, if an organization is just an absolute mess, practice times are last minute, you're paying a lot of money, you're getting a very little value, I'll advise that too. I get to be unbiased outside. Yeah, because I'm just gonna tell you like it is, and here's what I've heard, and you can make your decisions.
And if I can jump in on that, and I say this a lot, and it's on the blog too. And this is directly to parents. In your professional world, in your occupation, consistency and structure win. Okay, all the time in the professional world. why aren't you consistent and structured with your child's development? Why are you going all over the place? Why are you doing random things? Like why are you shooting from the hip? And parents need to approach their child's development in this process like they do their professional lives, because that's what wins.
It's funny. It's like if you were to hire somebody, they've had a bunch of different jobs, like 6 months here and 8 months there and 3 months here, and then didn't have a job for like you're like
red flag,
right? Like I think it's so funny. You make these analogies into other areas, like
that makes so much sense.
If you're investing your money, like I'm just going to invest money randomly all over the place all the time, pull it in, pull it out. Never, there's no strategy, there's no plan. I'm going to listen to this person on Instagram, listen to this person on TikTok, and then my buddy said I should invest in this company. Like, what are you doing, you idiot? Like,
but here's the thing, like. People will listen to what we just said and agree with us 100%, and then they'll do the opposite. And then they'll go back to the same thing with their kid. And that's kind of, I think that's what drives us crazy, and that's really the theme behind this is like stop doing that. Like be consistent, be structured, have a plan for your kid.
The only other thing I'd add to this is like there are certain types of teams that meet the needs of players at certain portions of their career. Like the rec team, there is a large portion of a youth player's career that you should continue to play for your rec team. There is a time when playing for that high-level travel ball organization, you should play for that organization. Like, you need to use the system to your advantage versus the reverse, which players hop team to team because they're getting abused and they're getting used. And you'll have the coach who will say whatever it takes to get you and then also not charge you. And then you go over to the new team. Like, this is the trap that we're definitely trying to speak to.
Yeah, and I don't want to say funny, but how we're unbiased and we're approachable, and we're just real with these parents and athletes, and obviously it shows when these athletes or parents are asking us some pretty serious like personal questions that they're thinking about, but they're coming to us because we're straight shooters. We're gonna tell them what we believe is, some options, good, bad, indifferent, whatever, and they're going to reflect on it. And that just goes to show our entire staff when kids are, comfortable with approaching us with those questions on just how we are and how we present things. We are unbiased. Sometimes it's not going to be the right fit for that athlete right now. And we are okay to, let them know that. But the thing I laugh about is, when kids do come, and come into our systems, and then, they believe that the grass is greener somewhere else, and then 6 months to a year, they're right back here because we are consistent and we have structure, Not saying other organizations don't have it, but we are as real as it gets when it comes to development, especially on the youth ages. So I always laugh at that one when families and parents, believe the grass is always greener in 3 other areas, and then eventually they come back to us. So
I think the question that I think of is like when you go to an organization right now for travel ball, the thought is okay, go to the organization that has the most recruits, and that the problem with that is somebody being recruitable. Like most D1 athletes, when they're like 10, 11, 12, 13, like we're getting to the point where we can probably predict if a kid's going to be a D1 athlete one day, just because of the amount of information and data and the context that we have to compare them to. But I feel like the question you should ask an organization is, what is the percent that each kid gets better with you? Mm-hmm. We'll be able to answer that. We're working towards that right now internally. Yeah. What percent better on the metrics that matter? And then probably second to that, how much do the kids enjoy? Like, go to a practice and you'll see kids just hate practice. It's like, why are you exposing your kid to this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So.
Well, if you really want to get a reaction when you're asking those questions, ask them, like, what's the criteria for being posted as a commit on your website? And then that will really kind of,
What is the education and background of the coaches in your organization? Sure. And this is what I think is so funny.
Credentials, degrees, certificates.
Well, it's like, on the baseball side right now is what I played. I played. I'm a pro ex-player. Whatever. On the softball side, like none of them ever played. They're all dudes coaching girls. Sure. Which is, I think it's so funny that the funniest one I've heard of, and it's always on the softball side. Oh, my daughter plays D1 softball. It's like, so you did the easiest job in that whole equation. You helped to give birth to a girl that was really talented, and your wife's also 5'10", so your daughter's 5'11". She's a monster. Like you had nothing to do with that. I think that's another question. Like, what are the credentials and the expertise of the coaches, and how is that going to help my player get, like my kid get better? Yeah. Versus they're just those are the best kids and they win all those tournaments. Like,
and I think that would be my closing point on that is like, it's having that long-term view. Like, this is a marathon, so like if you're on a travel team and they go 0 for 2 straight tournaments and you want to jump ship, and then you find a new travel team that won a tournament, you feel really good in that moment. You want to battle. You didn't win that war. The war is getting your kid to the upper levels of the game, enjoying the game, loving the game, accelerating through the process. That's a marathon. And parents need to have that mindset, like, hey, like, I need to lay roots where there's great structure, proven results, great people involved that are going to nurture my child the right direction. Like, that's it. Absolutely. Okay, because we have the most college commits and D1s guys of any facility. Okay, if I handed you the list of those guys and you looked at it and I said, hey, what travel team do they play for? No one would know. Okay, no one would know when they played for when they were 12 years old, 14 years old. All right, maybe when they get a little older with social media, but for the most part, you wouldn't know. And the reason why is because no one actually cares. They only care where you get to. So lay roots that, somewhere that's going to get you where you want to be, like that aligns with your vision for this, not winning a stupid tournament.
Yeah. Right, and too many athletes jump from team to team, and the one thing I think we're trying to get across is the one thing that as parents you're taking away from your child is development. Right? Those are very formative years to where your kid can really make or break his talent and break through a wall that you didn't even know was there with the development. Instead, you're hopping from team to team trying to make him as happy as possible. So if you did like what you heard here, any last points before we wrap it up?
No, I just my biggest thing is development is the key word. Yeah. Go to a place where where the team, your individual athlete is developing, but objectively, right? The coaches, the staff, allow them to show you guys what they're getting better in. Obviously here our systems for the youth, is just being a good athlete, be a good mover, skill side will come, and then heavily, obviously, just moving fast. That's literally our bread and butter, our foundation of being a youth athlete here. Is we're going to train you to be have a good, strong foundation of just being a good mover. And then from there, the skill side will take over naturally with the environment, the drills we offer here. But outside of that is finding a good personal, family-oriented community, that you have full trust in, and obviously trust takes time, and so be rooted in where you go, because it is the long game here. What's Bryce Harper? Who's the youngest player to ever play in the show? What's the age? And how old was he?
I think he was
19. There's been a few 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
So 19 years old is when you can make it to the elite of the elite, MLB of the show, right? So you're talking from 5 years old. If you start playing at 5, you have a little bit over 13 years to grow your child. And that's obviously the 1%, Bryce Harper, right? You're looking at a 15-year game here of developing a kid into, if he or she does want to make it to the highest level of baseball or softball.
For sure.
So just having that outlook of that.
Yeah. Sweet. Thank you guys very much for listening to Talking Points with KPI, episode number 72. Once again, if you do feel like you want to dive more deep into the conversation, visit kpimh.com, click on the blog tab. It's titled Combating the Team Hopper Mentality, written by Eric Wagley. So please go make sure to check that out. Please go follow us on all our social medias at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And then please go subscribe to the YouTube channel at Kinetic Performance Institute. Thank you guys very much. Have a great day.